Okay, welcome to the recap. So I'm going to go over what I saw today and what I took. Today was a pretty hard read. We have FOMC tomorrow, and I didn't expect much for today because of this big expansion we had yesterday and Sunday night. But first thing I saw in the morning is that we had this SMT with previous day high, and we still had all-time high right up here if you trade with BADJ on. So my bias was pretty 50-50, but the thing that made me lean more bearish is this old new week opening gap and these 4-hour gaps. I want to see us trade lower into these. We also had this SMT and we had all these lows that I wanted to see get swept. So we had London low, Asia low. So I viewed this as like an AMD setup here with all this accumulation and this leg up which made the SMT, and I just had this 4-hour gap down here pretty much as my target. I didn't really want to long unless we swept out all these lows first. With this SMT being here, I just expected a move lower. So that was pretty much like my bias going into the morning. And on ES, pretty much the same thing. We saw this gap, and I wanted to see this 4-hour rejection block hold because of this SMT. And if you look, this was out of this 4-hour gap. So that kind of added to the bias, but it's not that important. But yeah, pretty much just all these lows was like super, super like obvious draw for me. But coming into open, we inversed this 1-hour gap and we closed below 1800 and midnight open. So that gave me a lot more confidence for shorts as well. We also had these lows, pretty much equal lows here with Asia. So I wanted to see open higher, 930 open higher, and then just get a short. But what happened is open didn't really give much. It was pretty choppy. So we came down, swept Asia low, and then we saw these highs. I wanted to see these get swept, which we eventually did. And the problem here for shorts were kind of off the table before 10 a.m. is because we had this SMT with London and Asia low. So I wanted to wait and see what 10 a.m. did. So here's 10 a.m. right here. So I want to see 10 a.m. open higher. We did have this 1-hour gap up here, which would be really nice if we traded into this. We still had this SMT with previous day high, and we were respecting OTE of this 4-hour range on ES, and we're still holding this 4-hour rejection block. But it was pretty tricky to read this because we already swept Asia low. We had an SMT down there, and ES looked a lot more bullish. We also had this 15-minute rejection block off of Asia low. So I wasn't super sure what we were going to do, so I just waited, see what 10 a.m. did. The first thing is 10 a.m. traded a little bit lower right here. And we had this 1 minute. This didn't look bad off of 10 a.m. because we were still holding this 15-minute rejection block, still had this SMT. But I still wanted to look for shorts. I saw on ES that we had this 15-minute rejection block off of OT of this range, and we're still holding this old 15-minute gap. Oops. So I still wanted to look for shorts. I just wasn't entirely sure where the entry would be, but I marked out this 15-minute rejection block here. And I saw that we traded higher into this. and we had this 5-minute rejection block off of the CE of this 15-minute rejection block. We still had all these lows, and on NQ, we did have this 15-minute rejection block off of 1800 and midnight open. This looked pretty good. There was a 1 hour above it, but it was way up here, so this was valid enough for me. I saw us that we hit the C of this 15-minute too. We did have kind of a 1 minute, but this didn't look that good really. And then we had a 3-minute off of this as well. This 3-minute looked pretty decent. And I actually hesitated the entry because I wasn't super sure about shorts, to be honest. I was really pretty much 50-50 on my bias. And I decided to just take this on an eval. But once I saw this 3-minute holding and we had this 5-minute on ES, I entered a little bit late, but it was an eval. And if I targeted this new week opening gap, this is still plenty of room for the trade. So my entry was right around here. Oops, that's the here. Something like that. So not the best entry. Ideally, I would have just limited this or even this 1 minute, which is kind of iffy. I don't really love this 1 minute. I went break even pretty soon because we still had this 5-minute rejection block, which is also why I was kind of like not super sure about shorts because we had this 5-minute with 10 a.m. So it was kind of difficult to tell if 10 a.m. opened lower or higher because we were reacting off of two 15-minute rejection blocks. This one here and this one. But I pretty much just took my chances with this. I said, well, if I'm right about the draw down here, then this 15-minute rejection block should hold. And we should just trade lower into this 4 hour. But I think I took about a 1 to 3 here just for the eval. Luckily, I was right about the draw on this, and we just traded lower and hit this. What gave me more confidence in this too was just the way ES looked, and also the way that this 4 hour closed after 10 a.m. This looked pretty bearish to me. We still had this SMT. So yeah, pretty hard read. Another thing I think that added overall to my bearish bias was the way that the daily opened. We came lower, but we didn't really trade into anything. Asia didn't trade into anything, and we still had these relative equal lows. This just looked more so like engineered liquidity for these gaps and this SMT. So it made sense to look for longs too if you just expected continuation to all-time high. But yeah, this was also a 1 hour rejection block. And what else? This 4 hours still here. So yeah, that's what I took today. Hopefully that makes sense. It was pretty hard to take a short with all-time high still being right here. But overall, I think it made sense, especially the way ES looks with all of these lows. I couldn't really see myself taking a long with all of this, but I think longs were valid as well, depending on how you viewed it. But hopefully that makes sense, and I'll see you in the next one.